So this is the ignored pandemic, right? How exactly did we get here? Where we're having these metabolic conferences throughout the United States with the SMHP, with Doug and others. This is the obesity epidemic over the last decade or 2 decades. It's spreading like a virus. Are we thinking about this critically? Are we thinking about what is it that's going on here? And if you're looking at where we got, right now, this is from 2020, this is from the CDC, there's more than 16 states with obesity rates above 35%. That's just amazing to me. This is where we've gotten. And so what do our best and our brightest think? And this is a highlight presented from the Obesity Society just 5 or 6 years ago, talking about how complicated obesity is. Does this look understandable to you guys? Can you explain this to a 6-year-old? They've been talking about calories for over 50 years. So this is what the convention told me 7 years ago, that keto and IF will cause disordered eating. So in my practice, I just hadn't seen that. I had seen so many people with binge eating resolve and food addiction resolve. So I published my case series. My patients aren't like yours. So it's a complicated graph here, but all you have to know is basically binge eating symptoms improve with a low carb diet and with intermittent fasting introduced. They have reduction in food addiction. And as the speaker just before mentioned, it could be complicated, and there's some element of selection bias here. There's only a couple of patients. But my patients were not what the convention said. And there's been further work. My partner, Dr. Laura Buchanan, has done work in group meetings where she empowered patients with CGMs and a low-carb diet at Wake, and she measured their food addiction symptoms before and after systematically, basically resolving it completely. They also say don't use keto in severe hypertriglyceridemia. Who's heard the NLA's guidelines? Has anybody heard the NLA's guidelines? This was 5 years back. They said don't use keto in high triglycerides. These are our best and our brightest. Right? And I'm like, wait a second. I've had patients with 1,000 come down to under 100. Just a couple. Well, Eric Westman's posted a paper several years ago showing that a low-carb diet systematically reduces triglycerides more than a low-fat one. What's going on here? Should we trust the convention? This is the National Lipid Association versus tiny metabolic practice, social media antagonists, and slayer of dragons. Who should you trust? And they say diabetes improves with weight loss and calorie restriction, not carbohydrate restriction. Has anybody heard that one? Yep. It's a lie.